I would normally say it's lovely to see you all here today, but of course I can't see you. So I'm welcoming you. I'm imagining I can see you. I was just actually looking at my emails before I came on here because I was doing a search for Tracy, and I realised the first email I had from Tracy was in 2008. So yeah, I've been doing
Oh
workshops.
my goodness,
I
Janey.
know, isn't it?
That's a
I
long
was
time
thinking it
ago.
was about, I don't know what I thought it was. I thought it was about 2012 maybe. And then I actually looked at, because I was doing a search and it came up and the first one was 2008. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's been that long.
God.
So yes, so it's a pleasure to be here as always. Obviously today we're going to be talking about confidence. For those of you who've maybe been before on some of my workshops, then you might know that I try to make them as interactive as possible. Given it's webinars now, I do use PowerPoint, and I will sort of turn my screen on and off. I will try not to keep it on all the time because I think that can be a bit death by PowerPoint, so I won't be doing that. We've got a number of slides to work through looking at confidence, so I'm just going to sort of kick off. My first question, I'm going to be using the chat panel, so if anyone's got anything they want to ask me, well, maybe tell me, share with me or anything, I'll keep an eye on that to see if there's anything there. But I might ask you as well just to give me some information about how you're reacting to some of the things I'm putting up. So yes, just to start off, so I'm going to put my screen up, and oh lovely, oh good technical start. There, can you all see my, actually, Tiggy, can you tell me, can they see this?
I can't see anything at the moment, Janey.
Okay, sorry. There we go.
Yeah, that's
Excellent.
great. Yeah.
Excellent. That's good. Okay, so yes, so this workshop, as we said, it's about increasing self-confidence, increasing self-belief, and really getting you to what my aim when I do this is to share some tools and techniques with you, but also it's really to start to raise your awareness about when you're being confident and when you're not. What's the difference for you? So rather than giving you a sort of checklist to work on, it's about you being self-aware and noticing when maybe your confidence isn't as strong as you might want it to be, and things you can do about that. So that's what really we're going to be looking at today. So in terms of, so I just wanted to start off, it'd be really interesting to find out, to get you thinking about it, because confidence is one of those words that we all use, and we all say, oh, I'd like to be more confident. But actually, you know, when we talk about more confident, that can be it gets in the way really when we think about being more confident, because actually, what does that mean for us now? So where are we now? More can be one of those words that just sort of stretches out into the future. So when we think about now, so where are you now? And where do you want to be? So if you were going to rate your confidence currently out of 10, where would you rate it? And it'd be good just to see some answers to that in the chat panel. So the chat panel you can access along the bottom of your screen. There's a bit that says chat. So if you click on that, a chat panel will open up and you can just give me a rating out of 10. 0 means, you know, I'm on the floor, I've got no confidence whatsoever. And 10 means, yep, I'm super confident. Thank you. Someone said 8, 5, 8. Yeah, that's good. Excellent. 6, 7. Confident, that's exactly what we're talking about. In some instances, they will be very confident and others not so much. And that's what we want to raise your awareness on. You know, where are the areas where that number you said today drops? And where does it increase? Because actually, sometimes you will have a rating that's much higher. And when it is, it's about you being curious about what's going on for you then. How are you doing that? What's going on for you? So we'll be talking about the ingredients of self-confidence, what makes self-confidence. But I really want you to hold on to that about how do I do self-confidence? In one of the workshops I did a few years ago, I started it off by standing at the front of the room. And I said, okay, I want you all to shout out instructions for me. How do I do not being confident? And it's a bit harder to do on a screen, but it was things like people were saying, well, I'd be sort of, you know, I'd be crossing my arms in front of me. I'd be maybe crossing my legs as I'm standing. I'd be leaning over to one side. Maybe I'd be looking down and not making eye contact with people. Maybe I'd be looking a bit sad or a bit grumpy. All those things can happen that we do when we're not feeling as confident. And it's about how do we change that? How to become aware of the things that are going on for us. And one of the things I just wanted to mention today, just for you to think about, is this little idea of getting out of your comfort zone. Because if we think about these zones of awareness, so often we are in that zone of comfort, which sometimes people can think is a bit of a negative thing. And actually it's not. That's where that's where our knowledge is. That's where we know how to do things. The things that we do on a day-to-day basis that we don't have to think about. They're all in that zone of comfort and knowledge. But what I want to encourage you, if you want to increase your confidence level, then is to think about how do you move out into that zone of learning, that zone of discomfort. Because when we're learning new things, it can feel a bit uncomfortable. We can feel a bit like, this isn't feeling great, and I'm not sure, but that's where we want you to move into. And also to be thinking that when you're there and it's feeling a bit uncomfortable, to be thinking, great, this is really good that I'm learning something new here, because that will be really good for my self-confidence. It will grow as a result of doing this. So we really want you to be moving into that zone of learning, that zone of discomfort. And what we don't want you to do is be, I don't know how I managed to do that. We don't want you to be moving into that zone of exposure or vulnerability. So we don't want you to be feeling sort of nervous, defensive, or even actually sometimes people withdraw when it's not working. They're feeling very vulnerable and very exposed. So we want to keep you in that zone of learning and discomfort. So I'd just like you to think now, especially given that we're going into lockdown, maybe think about, what's the one thing that you could do that would be outside of your comfort zone? And it doesn't have to be something big or grand. In fact, I was saying today, there's something in the paper saying about something you can learn over the next, how many days it is, 25 days that we're in lockdown. So what is it that you could push yourself to do? So just think now, what's the one thing, take a note of, what's the one thing I could do that would really push me into that learning zone? What could I do differently, do more of? Something that would stretch me. I'm looking at that article in the paper and thinking I'm going to have a look at it tonight and say, okay, so what's the one thing I'm going to do? And for those of you who've been with me before, you might have heard me talk about, I'm learning French. Been learning French for years. And sometimes it gets better, sometimes it gets a bit stale. But that's one of the things I've thought about that I'm going to be doing over lockdown is I am going to get my French dictionary out and I'm going to leave it sitting on my kitchen worktop and I'm going to start looking at that each day and learning a couple of words. So that's moving me into the learning zone. It doesn't feel very uncomfortable, but it's just something that when we take action and do something, it just makes us feel a bit more confident. So I'm challenging you to think about, what can you do? Someone's saying they're going to learn more about IT issues so they don't have to ask their daughters. That sounds familiar as well. That's something I could definitely do with. I was asking Tiggy before we came on this morning, thinking, how do I do this? I'm not sure, I've forgotten, it doesn't work last time. How do I do it? So yes, but each time we do that. So now I know actually how to do something that I didn't know at the beginning of the day. So thank you, Tiggy, for that. So it's even little things like that. Oh, wow, someone's going to get a degree in astrology. Is that real, or is that if it's real, I applaud you. That is amazing. For those of you who maybe that feels like a bit of a stretch, pick something else. Even driving a different way to go somewhere can actually just give you that sense of, I've got a dreadful sense of direction. So actually, if I take a different way and don't get lost and find my way, I'm kind of pleased with myself. That makes me feel better. So yeah, so challenging yourself to think about what can you do over the next few weeks that's just going to make you feel that you've learned something and just feel a bit more confident. So the ingredients of confidence. So the things that I focus on when I'm working with clients is, how are you breathing? What's going on when you're breathing? It tends to be when we're feeling a bit of discomfort and we're not feeling as comfortable, as confident, we tend to breathe more shallowly. So just being aware of that. When we're breathing more shallowly, it's not great for our confidence. And then how are you standing or sitting? But how are you moving? Those are the ingredients that we can make a difference to, that can help us feel more confident. And then we'll be thinking about, what are you saying to yourself? Because there are things that we say to ourselves that really don't help. I sometimes say to people, would you talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself? And usually the answer is no. And what are you focusing on? Where is your focus? Are you focusing on the good things, or are you focusing on the things that might go wrong, or the things that you didn't do as well, or things you could have done differently? All of those come together and have a real impact in terms of our confidence and how we're feeling. And they're all things that we can do something about. They're all open to us to do something different with. So the first thing I've written here is, if when we think about our body, you know, it's very interesting. I will often do a question with people I'm working with and say to them, so tell me about being confident. If I were to take 2 photographs of you, one that was taken when you're feeling very, a 9 out of 10 in terms of confidence, and one where you're not, if I were to take a photograph and cut out round them, so you just had this cardboard picture, a bit like I was saying earlier about how do we do not being confident, then I bet you could tell me the difference. And everyone I've asked that question to has said, yep, I could tell the difference between the two. I'd know by looking at them which one was I confident in and which one wasn't. And what I found talking to lots of people about this is a really quick way, a quick win to change how you're feeling is to lift up your chin. And we say that, it's probably an old-fashioned saying, but people used to say chin up. And actually, it's because if you just try that now, if you're sitting somewhere, what I want you to do is just sit maybe a bit unconfidently, and just maybe sort of hunch your shoulders over, maybe cross your arms and look down a bit. So your chin is sort of facing the ground. And what I want you to do now is just to lift your chin up and try and lift it so that it's as high as it'll go. And just notice what naturally your body wants to do. Your body wants to follow your chin. It wants for you to change your posture and sit up. And that's a really quick, easy tip to do whenever you're feeling not as confident as you might want to be, is just lift that chin up. And the rest of your posture will follow as well. So just a really quick, easy way of how you change your posture. And there's been quite a lot of work done in terms of how our body impacts our mind. And if you're interested, I'll put it on the chat panel later. There's a really interesting TED talk by a woman called Amy Cuddy. Just make a note of myself to put it up there. And what she's found from her work is that actually changing our posture changes not only how we're feeling, but it changes the hormones within our body. So when we have a positive posture, so when I call it the Wonder Woman pose, so when we've got our posture really strong and positive, and if I stop my screen sharing just for a second, so if you can see me, so if I sit upright and put my arms out to the side, and if I was standing up, I'd be standing with my feet apart and a sort of really strong posture. When they get people to do that, to take that power, they call it the power pose, take a power pose, what they found is that their confidence, the hormones that affect your confidence, which are testosterone, increases, and the stress hormone, which is cortisol, decreases when they just get people to stand in a different way. And what they found is when they get people to do the opposite, to take the unpower pose, so they're sitting maybe a bit like this, and their shoulders are hunched and they're sort of a bit down. When they then took a saliva test there, what they found was in that situation, their cortisol level increased and their testosterone level decreased. So actually, just by moving our bodies, we can have a profound effect of how we're feeling. So just something for you to be aware of. How do you move? How do you stand? So here, chin down, you put your chin up and naturally your shoulders go back, your head raises, and you can just stand. I'll give you that at the end. I'll put it in the questions at the very end, what the TED talk is. And it's about by a woman called Amy Cuddy. But just being aware that there's things that we can do that will just instantly make us feel a bit more confident. And that's completely within our power. So when you've just been that self-awareness that I talked about, if you're not feeling confident, think about your body first. Move your body into a confident pose. And just be aware when you're feeling confident, just have that awareness. So how do I do that? How does my body do it? I'm standing upright, or posture. So think about how you use that for yourself. So just going to our next slide. Talking about the voice in our heads, because we all have one that we listen to. We talk to ourselves constantly. And it's usually about 50 words a minute, which is 3,000 words an hour, which is an awful lot of words. There's an awful lot going on inside our heads. So we make observations, we make judgments, we have doubts, fears, anxieties. we've got this voice that's going on. And I sort of, my shorthand for it is this, I've got this sort of, this internal chatter, if we think about it like that goes on. So starting to have an awareness of how we're talking to ourselves and what we're saying, because we are doing it. And also it's important to be aware of the tone of voice. You know, what's our tone of voice like when we are talking to ourselves? It won't be a good tone of voice. It will be something not very positive and not very encouraging, not very kind. I was challenging a client the other day to think about how she could, because she's very self-critical and very judgmental of herself. And she really felt that was getting in her own way by talking to herself like that. And I challenged her to ask her how she could be a bit kinder to herself. And she found that really, really hard to do. She really wasn't very happy about being kinder to herself. It didn't sit. She was like, oh, I'm not sure being kind. It sounds a bit wussy. And I was like, okay, so are you being fair to yourself with these judgments that you're making? And she said, no, I'm not. And I said, so instead of, maybe being kind to yourself is a bit of a step too far, but how could you be fairer to yourself? So think about your internal dialogue, what's going on for you? What can you do differently? How can you speak to yourself differently? How can you be aware of it? Sometimes people say, well, that's just the way I am. And it's not, it's just a habit we've got into. It's just a way of talking to ourselves that we've got into. So it's about being aware of that and changing that. So just there, and little exercise for you to do. You don't have to do it now, but thinking about at another time, if you've got a notepad and pen beside you, you might just like to think about, in a few hours' time later today, just maybe stop and think about what have I been saying to myself? What has been going on for me? What have I talked to myself about? Have I talked about how I look? Have I talked about, what I've been doing in the work, what I've been doing at work or my job generally? Am I talking to myself about my intelligence, my competence, my skills, my worth? What kind of things do I say to myself? I mean, do you ever say to yourself, like, oh, that was such a stupid thing to say. Why did you say that? Shouldn't have said that. Or, oh, I can't do this. There's no way I can do that. That's not who I am. All these kind of things that we say to ourselves. So this little exercise, I'd encourage you to do and start to get a real awareness of what you say to yourself, what that internal dialogue is saying, and start to change it. Start to be really aware of that. And then as well, we're just sort of that follows on from here, thinking about the language we're using. It's how we communicate. It creates our reality and it has an impact on us and others. So think about how we can make someone feel good or we can make someone feel bad just by what we say to them. And our language creates our world. The language we choose to use creates our world. And one of Noam Chomsky, I always find it difficult to say his name, Noam Chomsky, he's a French psychologist, and he has done lots of work and research into this. And he said, you cannot revolutionize your mind and your thoughts until you revolutionize the language that you use. So think about, what is the language we use? Is it positive? Is it encouraging? We say things like to ourselves, like it's difficult to get up in the morning, or it's really hard to stop smoking, or it's really hard to do something. Then we're setting ourselves up for it to be exactly as we've said it. Because it's almost like hypnotic suggestion we're giving to ourselves. So we can start to say things like to ourselves, like, this might be challenging, but I know I can do it. Hear my tone of voice here. I know I can do this. Might be a bit hard at times. It might be a bit difficult. But yeah, I've done things like this before. I've succeeded in the past. I can do this. I started doing a running app, which is the BBC one, the 5K, from couch to 5K. And I'm going to forget her name now. She is a DJ on Radio 2 now. And I chose to listen to her when I was doing this. And she's got such a warm, lovely tone of voice. And she'll say things regularly. She'll say to you, you've got this, you can do this, I believe in you. And I just thought, it's so helpful when you're running, because that might not be the kind of things I might be saying to myself when I'm running. I might be not saying, I can do this, I've got this. But I sort of took that on board and thought, yeah, I like this. So I started saying that to myself at other times. Yeah, Jenny, you've got this. I can do this. You can do this. And thinking, hear the tone of my voice. It's that positive, enthusiastic, we can do this. And if we start using that as a resource for ourselves, When can you start saying to yourself, I can do this? Before you're facing something difficult, be aware of your tone of voice. What are you saying about, perhaps you've got a meeting coming up. What are you imagining is going to happen? What we imagine is really powerful. So be aware of what we're thinking and what we're saying on the back of that. So if we're thinking this, oh, I can't do this, this isn't going to, I'm just, I'm really dreading this, then be aware that that's what you're saying to yourself, and you're setting yourself up for it to be just as you're telling yourself. So actually, why not tell yourself something different? Because when we talk to ourselves differently, we change the hormones inside our body. We change how we're feeling. And when we feel more positive and we feel a bit stronger, a bit healthier, a bit happier, then when we do all of that, then actually that gives us a choice. Because when we're feeling more resourceful, we can respond differently. I always say when he talks about revolutionizing your mind, that the language we choose, we can also hypnotize ourselves, and we can also paralyze ourselves and our thinking when we make our thinking really negative, and we paralyze our body. It's a bit like when we're saying that horrible things to ourselves, when we're saying it's going to be hard, when we're saying it's going to be difficult, and we're imagining, we're picturing that in our mind's eye, our body follows us. So it doesn't take on the power pose, it takes on the unconfident pose. And the whole thing is a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. So start to be aware of what we're saying, that we can make a shift and a change in that. Another thing we can often do when we're not feeling very confident is we can really compare ourselves to others. We can start to, and we don't compare ourselves normally favorably. We compare ourselves maybe not so favorably. So I saw this quote probably a few years ago now, and I just really like it, because it's who you're comparing yourself. It's not to be better than others, it's to be better than our previous self. So just doing something a little bit better today than we did it yesterday will start to make us feel more confident and feel better about ourselves. So just be aware about who you might be comparing yourself to. And just choose your language. Sorry, I've gone back the way instead of forward. And sorry, what were we saying about IT? I've got a very sensitive mouse here today. So a little exercise that you can use, and you have to give me a bit of poetic license here. I talk about being wild about life, and I've used this for a long time, and my clients will say to me, yep, I was wild about this, Janey. And it's a habit that you can get into, and it's a nice, easy, quick one to remember. So wild. So the W stands for what has gone well. So what's gone well overall? And then I is what did I do well? And there's always something we've done well. And just thinking about, even if it's I picked up the phone to someone that I didn't really want to speak to, what have I done well? And then the L is, what do I learn from this? What do I learn from today? And then the D is, what am I going to do differently? So thinking about that. So what has gone well? What did I do well? What do I learn? And what will I do differently? There's a phrase in NLP which says that there is no failure, only feedback. And it sounds a bit glib, it sounds like an easy thing to say, but actually if we really live our lives believing that there's no failure, only feedback, then it can dramatically change our lives. Because suddenly it's not about failure, it's about, I'm going to do this, and it might not work out 100% the way I want it to, but some of it will go well. There'll be some things I do well, there will be things I learn, and there will be things I do differently on the back of that. And when we do that, then we just feel differently. We move forward each and every day, even if it's only a little thing. Each day we're moving forward. There have been times, I know I use this now consistently myself, and it's also tying it into that awareness. How's my body feeling? Is it feeling confident or is it not? Am I feeling maybe a bit overwhelmed or a bit dispirited? What's going on for me? When I'm not feeling good about myself, then what can I do to change it? And this is a nice, easy, simple technique that we can use and do. So just think for a minute, when can you use this? So think about yesterday. So what went well yesterday? And then specifically think, what did I do well? What's the one thing, I'm sure there's lots of things you did yesterday, but what's the one thing that perhaps you think about and you think, I did that well yesterday? And what did I learn from this experience? And what am I now going to do differently on the back of that? So a nice little exercise to use. And I've got another exercise that I like to use as well. The magic wand exercise. So imagine someone waved a magic wand as you were sleeping tonight and you didn't actually know about it. So when you wake up this morning or tomorrow morning, say they wave a magic wand tonight and you wake up tomorrow morning, just imagine as you start to get up and go about your day, what would you be aware of that was different? You know, they've waved that confidence magic wand and you're just feeling, you know, a 10 out of 10. Or for those who don't want to be a 10 out of 10, how about a 9 out of 9 in terms of confidence? So when you start to go about your day, what would be different? What have you started doing that perhaps you didn't do yesterday? And what have you stopped doing? I'm just going to give you a few minutes to think about that. And then if you can share something in the chat box, that'd be really, really nice to get some feedback. Oh, sorry. This mouse is really sensitive. I'm just going to put my screen back on. I know I can't see you, but at least you can see my face for a little while to know I'm actually here and it's not all just PowerPoint. But just thinking about, you know, in terms of confidence, what would you start doing or stop doing if that magic wand had been waved last night or tonight as you sleep? What would you be aware of? Stop procrastinating. Stop imagining worst case scenarios before they happen. Oh, yes. And that can they're really coming in now. I've got to read quickly. Stop procrastinating. Be feeling more calm and in control, less stressed, more happy. Stop doubting myself. I always have to have difficulty saying this word, catastrophizing. Thank you. I would have my words and be more positive and kinder to myself. So imagine if you just started doing all of that now, because that's all within your control. So imagining the worst case scenarios. So when you find yourself doing that, you know, what could you think about? So what would be the really good outcome for this? And I know we can't dictate what can happen. We can't control everything that happens in life, you know, but there are things that we can change, how we can think about how we're feeling and what we're focusing on. We can really think about that and stop imagining the worst case scenario. So what would be, when you catch yourself doing that, you know, say really loudly inside your own head, stop it now. This is not helpful. And think, okay, so if that's the worst case scenario I'm imagining, if that's what I'm catastrophizing about, so what would be the best case scenario? When I first started, I mean, I've been an executive coach and trainer now for 19 years. And when I first started doing it, I used to get a bit nervous, you know, especially when I was working with someone who I perceived to be very senior, and I think, oh, what can I bring to this? What can I do? And what I would do then when I was traveling to meet them, I'd be aware that my stomach, you know, I'd maybe start to get a bit of butterflies in my tummy, and I'd really think, okay, Janey, I can change this. What can I do? And I'd actually write in the back of my notebook and think about how is it going to go? If it goes absolutely brilliantly, how would I know? When I leave this meeting, if it's gone really well, how would I know? And I would write down things like, and this is completely ego, and I hold up my hands to this one. I would write things like, you know, the client would be saying, God, that was such a good session, Janey. I really enjoyed that. I got so much out of it. Because that's important to me. That's what I want people to get. I want them to get something practical that they can use and they can feel differently. So that would be my success criteria. So that was what I would imagine. And it's amazing when you take the time to do that and think about, okay, what would success look like for me now if I imagine this? Then it's amazing how that then changes what the vision inside our head is, because we have these pictures that we're making that we're not really aware of. But by bringing them into awareness and thinking about them differently, then we can start to think about what would be the good outcome. What can I do here? Oh, can you please go and train Sage? Yes, absolutely. Don't know who they are. Get in my car and drive. I have some driving, have some anxiety about driving. If I could share something with you, I mean, when we were able to fly, which seems like it was a very long time ago, but I have a friend who is not a particularly good flyer, and I was flying with her, and I could see she was getting very nervous and very uptight. And I was like, okay, stop and breathe. And then think about, what is going on for you at the moment? What are you focusing on? And she was focusing on, oh, there might be turbulence, and I hate turbulence. I really don't like turbulence. It makes me really scared. And then you can imagine all the horrible things that she was imagining on the back of that if there was a bit of turbulence. And I said to her, okay, so how about if you think about, where are we going? The two of us are going away together, it was one of my best friends from school. We don't get to do that very often. It was a special birthday and we were going away for a weekend together. I was like, think about where we're going. Think about what we're going to do when we get there. Think about the great time we're going to have. And so when we started to talk about that, and she started to think about all the good things that we were going to do, the places we were going to visit, the wine we were going to drink, the cake we were going to eat, all the lovely things we were going to do together, then suddenly she started to relax and feel a bit differently because she was focusing on something different. And we have that within our power. We do sometimes think that this is just the way I am, but it's not. It's just a habit we've got into. And it can feel a bit, a bit challenging to begin with. But we can do it. We do it naturally. When we're going to a party or going to something we're looking forward to, say, something that we really want to go to, and we're looking forward to seeing people there, whatever it is that would be for you. When you think about that, the picture in your head is of a positive thing happening. It's of you enjoying yourself, having fun with the other people. It's all the nice things that you can see that come to mind. And then we just feel good about it. So, but when we do the opposite, when we make the pictures of us, oh, it's not going well, I don't want to do this is going to be horrible, then our bodies react and we feel differently. And it's actually, how can we change that? It is within our complete control. So I actually found myself on a plane, and it was a bit turbulent. And I was aware I started to feel a bit nervous. And I consciously thought, no, 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 I'm not going here. This is not something I am going to allow myself to do. This is not how I want to be when I'm on a plane. This is not what it's about for me. So I consciously thought, okay, what can I do? I put some music on, I listened to music, I started thinking some happy thoughts. I thought about my family, I thought about my kids, I thought about my dog, I thought about my cat. I thought happy thoughts, which can sound a bit like, yeah, Janey. But actually it changes us in that moment. We change. It lowers that cortisol. It lowers the stress hormone. It then the serotonin, which is the nice happy feeling, it gets released, which changes our body. And once we've changed our body, it's only our thoughts that can carry on that feeling negative. It's the thinking that we have around of it. And I call it that negative spiral downwards. So there's actually been research done. When we have an emotion, a feeling in our body, when we have an emotion, it sort of peaks at 45 seconds. That's how long an emotion stays in our body. But I think we all know we can make an emotion last for a heck of a long time, can't we? I don't know if you've ever had an argument with someone, maybe someone close to you. And actually you felt really angry and very cross about it all. And, you've had that emotion has arisen. But we can keep that emotion going, especially women. We can be quite good at that. And guys too. We can keep that emotion going by the chat inside our head. So we can focus on all the other things they've done wrong and all the other things they should have done and the things they should have said and how this isn't just right and this isn't right and I don't want to do this and blah, blah, blah. We can do all of that in our head to keep it going. So how about changing it and making it good to keep us in a positive frame of mind? Make us feel good about ourselves, because that is all within our control and we can do that. So I'm just aware of time, it's 11:15. So I'm going to go back onto sharing my screen. I might actually just drop through a couple. So this is something I wanted to share with you as well. In terms of when I said about our breathing can impact how confident we're feeling. And this is, there's been lots, if you want to look up on this, there's lots of research about this. In terms of our breathing, when we're feeling upset or anxious, our breathing becomes much more shallow and rapid. So we're breathing from sort of the very top of our chest as opposed to right down into our belly. And this is, I teach this to clients, is a way to help you think effectively, because this puts you into a really positive, your body into a positive state, that then you can be in a good place to think about or to act or to do whatever it is that you want to do. So it brings, I won't go into the science, it's the automatic nervous system which brings our sympathetic and parasympathetic into balance, into coherence. So it's very simple and it's very powerful. So it's about breathing calmly and easily in and out through our nose or our mouth, whichever is most comfortable for you. And it puts us into this coherent state where our body feels resourceful. So I'm just going to take a minute to do this with you now. So just as you sit here, I'd like to make sure that, wherever you're sitting, or if you're standing, make sure you can sort of wiggle your toes, make sure you can feel your feet on the floor, really sort of move your feet up and down on the floor, bounce your feet. You can probably hear my feet, I'm bouncing my feet up and down on the floor. So just, feel your feet there, and just feel your feet, and have your hands on your lap. And what I'm going to get you to do is, in fact, I will put back onto my screen, actually, I'll stop sharing my screen so you can actually see me. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just be aware. I'm going to count your breath, and it's not anything, we're going to do a nice relaxed one. We're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 4. So it's breathing in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. And just carry on. I'll just keep counting for you. So it's in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. And if that feels too short for you, you can change it to 5 or just stay at 4. So in, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just doing that yourself. I'll be quiet just for a few seconds and let you carry on counting your breath in for the same amount and out for the same amount. So if you count in for 4, count for 4, and then breathe out for 4. Just nice, steady, easy breathing. Just feeling your feet on the floor and your hands resting on your lap or on your desk, however you're sitting. And I'll just be quiet for a second. Just as you're doing that, just feel your body, just ensure your body's feeling comfortable. Just, move around, relax your shoulders, let your shoulders drop if they've been higher. Just be aware of your jaw, allow your jaw to relax, your tongue to relax. Feeling your feet on the floor as you continue to breathe. And there's something else. So that is a very simple exercise, and that puts makes our breathing coherent, because when we're a bit anxious, nervous, unhappy, whatever it might be, we tend to breathe from up here. So when we're breathing from, for those who might know, see I've got my hand at sort of the bottom of my neck, at the top of my chest, and our breathing becomes short and shallow, which is not good for us feeling calm and resourceful. So we just want to sort of slow that breathing down a little bit. So it's not taking really big, deep, unnatural breaths. It's just allowing your breathing to become more natural for you. And breathing in and out for the same count will just bring us into a different space. And as you're doing that, you can just allow your body to just be aware of what's going on in your body, and just allowing it to feel more comfortable in that moment, to feel more ease in your body. And the one thing else you can add into this, if you really want to, is that you can just allow the back of your throat, another easy way, just a quick, so separate from the coherent breathing that we just talked about, another easy way, just in the moment, to change how you're being, is to be aware of the back of your tongue and just allow the back of your tongue to relax. And as I do that now, I can just feel my jaw relaxes and my tongue relaxes in my mouth. We can often carry a lot of stress and a lot of tension in our jaw and around our inner tongue. Sometimes you can find that your tongue is like stuck to the roof of your mouth. And if you ever have an awareness of that, if that's happening for you, then you want to relax your tongue down, relax it down so that the tip of your tongue sits behind the back of your front lower teeth. And as you do that, you will just find that your jaw will relax as well. So just some little tips for you to help you, in that moment, you want to feel more resourceful, calmer, more confident. Just allow your tongue to relax, your jaw to relax, the back of your tongue, just allowing the back of your throat, back of your tongue, just to relax. So just some little easy techniques for you to use. And just going back to, I just wanted to go back to the person who said about driving. It's about thinking about, where you're going, where you want to get to, and how we think about it. The language, just bringing it all together as well, just using that example, is that we can build ourselves up. We can start talking about, I hate driving. I just, I'm rubbish at driving. I don't like driving. I don't want to do it. I don't like doing it. And we can have this whole story that we tell ourselves, and it's not a helpful story. And it's just a story. It doesn't have to be true. We can make our own reality. We can decide what we pay attention to and what we don't pay attention to. So you could start off, very simply and easily, driving maybe just round the block, something that would feel comfortable for you. How can you make it feel as comfortable as you can when you're driving, so that you just start to build little bits of confidence here and there, and just using your breathing as well to keep yourself calm, keeping your chin up. Be aware of what you're saying to yourself. I can drive. I've got this. I wish I could remember that blinking. I'll have to look it up in the break, what the DJ was called. She's got such a lovely voice. But I've got this. I can do this. I can drive. You've passed your test. That means that what that means is that you are absolutely capable of driving. You have passed the test. You have the skills and the capability to drive. What's getting in the way is what's inside your head. So let's change what's inside your head. Think about it positively. I've got this. I can do this. Bringing in your breathing. Before you go to bed at night, just imagine you can see yourself in the car. Sort of see yourself, imagine that you're waving yourself off at the door. So you're standing at your front door, and assuming you can see your car from there. If you can't, standing at the window, wherever you could see yourself in the car. So imagine seeing yourself in the car and driving off, maybe giving a little wave, how would you know that you in the car is feeling comfortable and confident? Maybe she's giving a wave as she drives off. Yeah, bye, see you later. Yeah. Just whatever makes it real for you, and just visualize that every night before you go, as you go to sleep, when you get into bed and you get comfortable and you're feeling, relaxed, then visualize yourself doing that. And of course, we can visualize whatever we want. Visualization is a really powerful tool available to us that we can use. And there's been lots of neuroscience research being done in the last few years. And what they've found through neuroscience is what we've always known using NLP, is when we use visualization, that actually what happens is that we connect the neural pathways. And when we visualize, we connect neural pathways exactly in the same way as if we were doing it for real. So actually, if we want to get better at something, start visualizing yourself doing it every night. For a week, visualize yourself doing what you want to do. See yourself being confident. See yourself being relaxed. See yourself being happy. It's your picture. It's your head. It's your picture. So see yourself being the way you want to be. How do I want to be? I want to be confident, relaxed, assertive. Jo Wiley, thank you. Someone's just told me. Jo Wiley. She's got a lovely tone of voice, that lady. Really lovely tone of voice. And she's just so kind and enthusiastic and positive. And I just, yeah, I've taken on her voice now. You know, when I said earlier about tone of voice and how we speak to ourselves. So instead of that harsh, critical voice that we might have, you know, I imagine what would Joe Wiley say to me now? I actually use her because I just love her tone of voice. And I say to myself, I think she'd tell me, you've got this, Janey. You've got this. You can do this. You can do this. Yes, but the visualization, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked there. The visualization piece is when we visualize ourselves doing what it is that we want to do. If we can make pictures and see ourselves doing it, see ourselves being confident. And you can see yourself doing anything that you want. Your imagination, that's the great thing about human beings. We have this wonderful imagination and we don't use it nearly half as much. You know, kids daydream. They daydream about lots of lovely things. You know, we could just do with a bit more of that in our life. Let's daydream a bit. Let's visualize ourselves being confident and happy. There's I was going to mention there is a study that was done a very, very long time ago by he was a plastic surgeon called Maxwell Maltz, and what he found was he did plastic surgery on people who'd had accidents and, you know, their face especially had been damaged in an accident or something like that, and he worked on them to make them look the way they wanted to look again, how they had been before their accident. And what he found was, out of all his patients, he was very, very good at what he did. So his success rate was very, very high. So it wasn't in any way his ability that was having this impact. What he found was that sometimes people, some of his clients, patients, would come back and they'd be so delighted and so happy with how they looked, and they'd feel really confident and really happy and just be in a great place. But some of them would come back and they would actually be they wouldn't be confident, they wouldn't be feeling good about themselves. They would still be, in their mind's eye, they still saw themselves with whatever sort of, I was going to say, I don't mean deformity, but whatever was wrong with them, whatever injury they'd had, they were still seeing themselves as if that's who they were. They hadn't updated that self-image they had of themselves. And he got really curious about this and thought, you know, it's not my work. You know, I'm doing the best work, you know, that I'm doing as a surgeon. I'm a really talented surgeon. So it's not that's the issue. It's what's going on inside their head. So he actually sort of started doing some research into it and into psychology and how he could make a difference. And what he started doing with clients was he set them an exercise to do, that every night for a week, they had to see themselves as they are, as they looked in the mirror. So not how they used to be, but how they are right now. So they saw themselves as how they are. And he got them to visualize that. And then, you know, imagine, see themselves, you know, going about their day, feeling happy, feeling confident, feeling relaxed. And just to run this sort of little daydream, not even a daydream, it's probably not the right word, but you know what I mean? He would get them to run this vision of themselves, of how they look now, and see themselves being confident, happy, and relaxed. And he would get them to do that for a week. And at the end of the week, it transformed how they felt about themselves. They'd updated that image they had of themselves. So we have that ability to do that at any point. I actually got a client to do this, and he was an IT. He was an IT director, and we'd done lots of work together. And then there was just something that wasn't quite 100% there. So I gave him this exercise to do, and I have to be honest and say I wasn't entirely sure he would do it. I was thinking, well, he might, but you know, I'm going to hold on to this. He will do this. I believe in him. He will do it. Well, actually, he did do it, and he came back after a week, and he was just like, he was blown away. He was like, I can't believe the differences it's made, Janey. I really can't believe it. Everyone in the world should learn how to do this. We should teach our kids how to do this so that everyone does it as a matter of course. It's just what we do. Because why would you choose to have an image of yourself that's not a really lovely one? Why would you choose to see yourself in a bad light? You know, see yourself in your best light. See yourself being at your best. Because, of course, what happens, it's a bit like you looking at our strengths. When we focus on that positive outcome, when we focus on positivity, we just feel better. You know, we've already discussed about how the hormones will shift within our body and how we'll feel better. And when we do that, then we just feel, you know what it's like when you're in a good place, when you're feeling good. You know how some days you just get up and you're feeling good about life and, hey, this is good. And yeah, I'm feeling, you know, we call it a good day. Well, let's make them all good days. What are we focusing our attention on? We focus on what's good, what we love about life, what we love about ourselves, and see ourselves doing that. So see yourself driving comfortably and easily wherever you might want it to be. How about when you see yourself through other people's eyes negatively? That's a choice. I'm going to put that back on you. What could you do differently? How could you see yourself? Why would you hold on to that if that makes you feel bad? So let go of theirs. That's their stuff. Don't do it. Don't buy into it. You have a choice. You have a choice how you see yourself. And it's one of the most powerful choices you can make in life. How about you see yourself? Yeah, good point. Thank you. I can make good points occasionally. I'm just aware of time because I'm aware it's 11 o'clock. And I said I would either finish and we'd go to Q&A, or we'd have, so what I'm going to suggest is we have a 10-minute break now. So a comfort break, get yourself a cup of tea, have a bit of a stretch, have a walk around, you know, just go and do that for 10 minutes. I will put my camera and myself on mute, as same as Tracy and Tiggy have, and we will come back. I make it 11 o'clock on my watch. So whatever time it says on your watch, add 10 minutes and we will be back here and we will just have a quick 10-minute wrap up, if that's okay.
Okay, that's great, Janey. Thank you. We'll see you all in 10 minutes.
Enjoy your cups of tea.
Bye.
Bye, see you later. Right, just going back to what we were talking about. I was just looking through some of the things that you've just said about, and I just thought it'd be useful for me to talk to some of them. Stop imagining the worst case scenarios before they happen. So what could you do instead? How could you imagine best case scenarios? And I want to write that down as a sort of reminder to yourself to do every morning. Put it somewhere, you know, that you see it in the morning, to remind yourself, you know, how can I start imagining best case scenarios? What can I do in order for that to happen? Because you have complete responsibility and control for doing that. So please do something to do it. Stop procrastinating. So what question could you ask yourself that would be useful? What do I want to do today? What do I want to achieve today? What's on my list of things I want to accomplish? You know, be creative with your language. There's a fabulous quote, and I can't flipping well find it, which is really annoying. I watched in the last lockdown, we rewatched all the Harry Potter films, and at one point, Dumbledore says, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he said, language is such a wonderful thing that we have, and it's so powerful and so amazing, and we should use it to the best of our abilities. I mean, that's basically roughly what he said, but he said it's magical. Language is magical, and it is. So let's create a bit of magic for ourselves by using language that works for us. So thinking about, instead of saying what you don't want, you know, focus on what you do want. So that could be, I'm making it up for you, but maybe actually I'll get you all to think, give you a few minutes to think about this. So how could you return that round and make it something you want? Someone said, I'm not saying names at the moment, be feeling more calm, in control, less stressed, more happy. So how do you want to feel? So you want to feel happy. So what can I do to feel happy in this moment, today? There's always something we can do, even if it's just, you know, Tracy had a nice hot cup of tea there that she was looking forward to. You know, if that makes us feel happy, get out and go for a walk. Going out for a walk is the most, I mean, if you can go somewhere that's got a bit of grass, even better, because that just makes life so much nicer. Even when it's miserable weather like this, we get outside, we release some endorphins by getting a bit, walking releases endorphins, getting some exercise makes us feel better. I would have my words and be more positive and kinder to myself. So how can I be positive? How can I be kind? Forget the how can I be kind to myself? How can I be positive? How can I be kind to myself? What can I do that helps me be kind to myself? Then we've got be more positive. So how can I be positive? What can I do now that will help me feel positive? Get in my car and drive. So as we said, You know, think about times when you have driven and you felt really confident and you enjoyed it. You know, imagine, you know, maybe the image that you have is seeing yourself driving down the highway in a soft top with your hair blowing behind you. Hey, who knows? Make it fun, make it nice, make it something that, you know, makes you feel good. That was about Sage. Yes, and someone actually just said a Polish saying that it reminded them of. It said, and it's when I feel I'm being infected. Sorry, Janey, start again. Read it carefully. When I feel I'm being affected by things that I don't need to be, she says to herself, not my monkey, not my monkeys, not my circus. I might borrow that one. I like that. Not my monkeys, not my circus. So that might be something to, you know, what can we say to ourselves in that moment that will just make us smile, will make us laugh, you know, that just breaks that moment that we're in so we can feel good about it. So I just wanted to share my screen again, just about thinking about, just give you another bit of input here. Share, here we go. So the power of questions, you know, what can we do with our questions? How can we be creative and intelligent with our use of questions? Because when we ask ourselves questions that focus and keep us stuck on the problem, like why did this happen? You know, what's wrong? Why isn't this working? I've done that twice, so I'm so sorry. Why isn't this working twice? Oops. Why haven't I done this? Let's change that one too. Then that keeps us stuck in the problem. And it can, especially when we ask a why question, that can bring up defensiveness and creative excuses. You know, why did you do that? Why did you say that? Why hasn't this worked? You know, we can come up, well, it wasn't my fault. It was because they didn't get the report to me in time. Or it's because, you weren't home in time for supper, so that's why it's not ready. Or, you know, as opposed to, if we think about how do we want to be, what do we want to happen? So what do you want to achieve here? You know, what do we need to do to move this forward? What do we need to do to make this work? Or what can we do to make this work? I've done it twice. What can we do to make this work? I've copied that twice, I'm sorry. Typing obviously was in a rush. But think about, what are the questions that you can ask yourself that empower you? So think about, you know, what would be my best case scenario? What would be my, you know, this would be wonderful if this happens. So focus on that and think, then what can I do to help this happen? What can I do? What can I be responsible for? We can't change other people. We can't do anything. Although it's very interesting when I work with people and maybe they're working on, you know, a relationship, you know, it's in work, you know, that they don't have a productive relationship, say with their boss. And it's amazing how when I get them to think about it, so, okay, so what's within your control? What can you do differently? What can you do more of, less of? What can you do? How can you be that will help improve the relationship with your boss? There's always something they can think about. And when they do that, it's very interesting that normally what happens is the relationship shifts. And I actually had one person who came back and said, you know what my boss said? He said to me, I don't know what's different about you, but you've just got such a lovely way about you these days. And yes, it's just, I think we're just working so much better together, aren't we? And she had a bit of a wry smile to herself and thought, oh, this works. And it does, you know. And one of the things I think we can do is give up on being right. Because when we get caught up on being right, we get caught up in our story and we will put our blinkers on and we will only notice all the information, all the data out there that supports us being right. So we won't notice anything that disagrees because our brain doesn't like it. Our brain likes certainty. So when we've decided something, our brain is very keen to find only the evidence which supports that belief. And if we even find evidence that doesn't support that belief, we'll kind of ignore that belief and just disregard it. So be mindful about being right. At what cost are we being right? And what is the impact on the relationship? Oh, I've just got a cat that's jump on my computer. She obviously sneaked in when I wasn't looking, when I was getting some more water. Sorry, that's thrown me off. So think about the power of your questions. Someone's just said their self-talk can last for hours. Well, then be aware of that. You know, find yourself doing that. It's okay to have a bit of a wallow. We're allowed to have a bit of a wallow. It doesn't have to be Mrs. Happy Pants all the time or Mr. Happy Pants all the time. But be aware that you can have a wallow and let yourself do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you're going to stop. And then you're going to think about, okay, what can I do about it? And there's just the other thing I'm just going to throw in very briefly is the power of being grateful. There's been so much research done on this, all the reasons why it works and what a difference it makes. Better immune system, lower blood pressure, healthier heart rhythm, helps you sleep better. It can lead to you having better well-being and feeling happier, basically more positive emotions. And so the act of being careful is either going through your day and thinking about things that you're grateful for. So I took my dog for a walk at the weekend. What day is today? I'm lost with it. Yes, it was the weekend, and it was a lovely. The colours went out, and we went into the forest, and the colours in the forest at this time of year were just beautiful. So at that point, I make a point of saying to myself, I'm so grateful that I can get to go and walk in amongst the trees, because they're just beautiful and it makes me feel better. So I will do it throughout the day, but also you can just keep a little diary, keep a notepad beside your bed, and do it at night before you go to sleep. You know, what are the 3 things I'm grateful for today? I used to do it with my kids when they were much younger. I used to have, especially my youngest, I'd give her a cuddle in bed at night and we'd read a story, and then I'd say to her, same thing, what's the best bit of your day? What's been the best bit of your day? And of course, kids being kids, she'd say, well, the best bit of my morning was this, and the best bit of my afternoon was this. And of course, the best bit of my day, she wasn't daft, this child, is now being with you, having a cuddle, mum. So that was setting her up to sort of build up that muscle, that gratitude muscle that we can use. Someone's just saying, a powerful phrase I tell myself when things feel impossible, I am breathing, so I'm already winning. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly it. And I don't know where I picked up this poem from, so I can't even attribute it to someone. So apologies for whoever wrote this poem. It's an autobiography in 5 short chapters. And so I walk down the street, there's a deep hole in the pavement, I fall in, I'm lost, I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the street, there's a deep hole in the pavement, I don't see it. I've fallen again. I can't believe it. I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. It takes a long time to get out. I walk down the street, there is a deep hole in the pavement. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. It's my fault. I know where I am. I get out immediately. I walk down the street, same street. There is a deep hole in the pavement. I walk around it. I walk down a different street. And if there's anything that I would like you to take away from today, it's how you can walk down a different street, how you can do things that will make you think differently and be differently, so that you can be as confident as you want to be and feel assertive. And so when you think about being confident and assertive, then visualize yourself doing that. See yourself being that way, and have the voice inside your head that sounds confident and assertive. Have the posture that supports you being confident and assertive. Before you walk into anything, think chin up, and the posture will follow. So no, there's no more. So I'll just go back. I'll take my screen off share and go back so that we can bring Tracy and Tiggy back in and answer any questions that any of you might have. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you.